What's going on today, guys? So today we're gonna get all the wiring on, the radiator, the throttle body, put the EGR block off on, and why you actually need the EGR block off on a swapped bike. And then we're gonna wrap up pretty much everything to do with all the wiring and bits and pieces. So welcome back to MOTO-VATION. Do some stuff on this side. Go ahead and plug in the fan, move the throttle body pieces and wires up and out of the way. So on the 250 it has this little vacuum line. We're just gonna go ahead and plug this and it'll be fine. I already plugged in the fuel pump up here. I plugged in the igniter right here, zip tied the wire out of the way. We'll go ahead and put this on. So you get 2 hose clamps and the Chimera piece. And this has a little divot. So you gotta put her right on there like that. Make sure she's seated on there really nice and good. And get your hose clamp right where it needs to be. So we got our piece all the way in there, and we're gonna go ahead and tighten the hose clamp down. Probably would help if we had Phillips. Alright, she's nice and tight. Go ahead and throw the hose clamp on there. Now we're gonna go ahead and get this in the right location. Just make sure all the wires will fit. Probably need to pull the wires out. I'm not gonna actually put this on yet and make sure that we have it in the right spot, and then we don't have to move anything because there's these pieces here. But I think we are good. All right, we need to tighten this down, but we got the throttle cable in there. Then we can go ahead and plug in our injector, our TPS, and this is just an extra wire. And then we can take and plug in our fuel line. Plug in our throttle body here. Everything right where it needs to be. And then we're gonna grab a wrench and tighten that. First, put our screen on. And go ahead and tighten this. Now, you can run a filter on this. I just don't because it would stick out into your leg. Now we're gonna go ahead and tighten our hose clamp here. A new day. So I got this in a good solid location. I even zip tied it. It's actually on this little rubber support that goes on the starter solenoid. It actually has a place for it. So I slid that on there, and this is just a cap that slides over that. So to make it more secure, I put a zip tie on it. I'll snip it up, and I'm gonna secure some of these lines, make sure the fuel line is in its right spot. I'm gonna put the actual radiator in, then we can move on to our next steps. Alright, so let's get this in its spot. Get this just finger tightened. Alright, so it's just in its place there. We are gonna need to pull the horn off, but we'll deal with that in a moment. Let's go ahead and tighten these upper mounts in. Loosen this in its place. Clutch cable's in a better location. Make sure the cap is off this bad boy. So on the top of the head, there is a plate for a breather, and that cannot be used. So you need to buy from Driven or make one or have one provided to you. I got this when I bought a big bore kit for my 300. Came with this, but I had bought the driven one initially, so it wasn't a big deal removing it right now. But the reason why you need this plate is because the actual radiator will not go far enough in. So as you can see, there's this hose that comes off there, it goes to the air box. Well, this is too thick and will not allow for you to put the Chimera radiator with the fan on. It just gets in the way. So we're gonna put this on, and there is a little divot on the head, so this is open for that. You go ahead and pop this on there in its proper location. I would show you guys, but it's very hard to see. All right. Another thing you want to do is change out the spark plug. This one's pretty black and oily, probably mainly from transport. So we're gonna put in this one. This is what Cody decided to get, which was an iridium laser, which looks like it's the exact same plug that was in it. So we'll go ahead and put this in there. I completely forgot to do it. All right, tightening a spark plug. Gotta be very careful. So it's tight, and I just give it like a little extra. Now, can put our plug wire on. Make sure this is routed properly so it has enough room. Carefully, let's put this radiator back into place. Without scratching anything up. Okay. I'm gonna put the Bluetooth right there. Zip tie that bad boy on there. This is all buttoned up the way it needs to be. We're gonna plug our cluster in, so when we're ready to start it, we'll be good to go. So we'll just set this down here. Everything's plugged in up here for the most part. That's for the headlight. We got some taillight stuff back here. Mind you, this is not permanent. I'm just gonna make sure that everything is in its location. And I don't know what is going on with Cody's little thing here, but looks like he had a fire at some point. All right, so that's all taken care of. Ground. I'm gonna use this. And I grounded it right here before, so go ahead and, ooh, so close. Oh yeah. All right, we'll hook that up here in a moment. We'll hook the battery up, make sure we have power, and then we will add some fluids. I'm gonna have to put this thing down to make sure all the oil's drained out, and then start filling her and getting her to start. Catch up with you in a minute. All right, we're gonna put our exhaust on, which this didn't have studs, so I'm just using some Allen bolts because it makes it easier to get access to with the exhaust that we got here, how large it is. All right, that is on. Need to tighten it. So let me give you a quick little walk around. Again, this is not completely done. Gotta get it all buttoned up, but we gotta make sure it runs and starts before you get everything tucked away. We have the radiator in, fan in, all electronics are plugged in except for the headlight, which is here. We'll get that plugged in a bit. We have zero coolant, zero fluids in this. We have the exhaust on and tight in place. Taillight hooked up, battery charging. Got the clutch cable in, we have it routed, and this is how I would suggest routing it, is have it come up and ramp up and through. There's a lot of different ways you could do it. You could have it go through here and over, which may end up changing, just depends on how this setup is. Every bike's just a little bit different sometimes. Then fuel line is connected to injector. Our single throttle cable is hooked up. And then we have all our electronics all mounted up and solid. Let's come around to this side. All right, so on this side, we need to go ahead and just tighten the sprocket down, which I'll do in a moment. I'll put the cover on so I can get these wires situated and out of the way. I'll get the shifter on. I'm gonna plug in our wideband, get it all threaded in here in just a moment. We got our radiator hooked up, connected down here with our bar. We have our vent for our crankcase hooked up. We have our wires all kind of situated and not completely in place. And I do have them labeled with just tape, like boxing tape type stuff, paper tape. That was so whoever bought the harness, they would know what is what. So we'll get this all buttoned up and out of the way. I'm gonna have to move the horn more than likely, at least bend it forward. Then we'll get all this situated so when I put the headlight on, it'll actually not be out of place or anything. I'm gonna roll this thing off, drain the oil while it's kind of at an angle because the motor sits more forward now. So you need to have when you check the oil, this part needs to be level with the ground. So this thing needs to be basically at a wheelie to be able to check that. People are like, oh, well, that sucks. But the oil pump is right in the front here. So it picks up all the oil in the front. That is where it is at the moment. So I'm gonna kind of pick this stuff up a little bit and get this, the oil out of it, whatever oil's left in it, and then add oil, add coolant, and hopefully by then we will have a charge.